Welcome back, true believers and spectacular Spidey fans, to again another Spider-Man PS4 related video. And today, this is actually a video that I've been wanting to make for a while, since it is a recommendation from my good friend and fellow Spidey Squad member, the Spidey Bugle, and he suggested for me to make a video on this topic. This is all his idea, so credit goes to him 100%. Thank you so much, the Spidey Bugle. You are incredible. Stay spectacular, you dude. Amazing, man. You are awesome. So, right now, we are seeing footage from The Amazing Spider-Man 1 in regards to Deadlock, and then you will see footage of car chases of the same game. And the reason why is because the Spidey Bugle wanted me to discuss about how I believe police chases or pursuits will work in Spider-Man PS4. What I mean by that is not really car chases, but if you look at the very beginning of the trailer where you see Spider-Man swing for the first time, as well as near the end where you see the crane sequence where Spider-Man is swinging around the crane, you see cop cars. In the first sequence where you see the swinging for the first time for the game, you see a cop car in the middle of the road blasting its sirens, trying to make cars stop in the streets so that way the police can make their way to the scene of the crime. As well as how in the crane sequence, when you see Spider-Man swinging around that crane, on the bottom of that shot, where you look at the street level, you see a whole squad of cop cars driving away from that crane sequence, probably trying to block off the area to keep it safe for the pedestrians, to have them not be crushed by the crane, and let Spider-Man do his job. Which is something I love to see. Not only do I love to see a really dynamic mission like that with the crane, I also love to see the dynamic city, because of how in all Spider-Man games, I think it's okay to say, is that there have not been real dynamic city/cop chases in the game. When a car chase is taking place in the game, like you're about to see in this one in a Spider-Man game, it doesn't really feel that dynamic. It feels like there are cops chasing after the car that you are chasing after, but it doesn't feel like a realistic situation. Like in Batman Arkham Knight, since the majority of the civilians are evacuated in the city, and only the cops and Batman and the criminals are in Gotham City, it makes sense that you see criminals driving around the cars that they're stealing, and you see some of the GCPD members try and chase after those cars while you are driving around the Batmobile or flying around Gotham City, which makes sense. But this is going to be a packed game. This is a fully populated New York City with no evacuations and no small amounts of population in this game. This game is going to be packed with both civilians, Spider-Man, criminals, and police officers trying to aid you in your assisting ways of saving people in New York City. Which is why in each of the free-roaming Spider-Man games, there have been car chases. However, they have not been really dynamic as much as this game looks. This game looks to have the most dynamic and most fun side missions / car chases / live police pursuits we have ever seen. Because of right now, you're seeing bank robbing footage from The Amazing Spider-Man 1, which are side missions. These are side missions of the police Deadlock, where there are different parts of the game where the robbers are trying to steal money from different places, like a warehouse or a shop or even a bank, which is a really cool police fighting sequence where the police officers are trying to hunt down the criminals, which you just have to basically hunt down and defeat in the end. But in the past Spider-Man games that have been free roam, we haven't actually really had a fully dynamic sequence of chases or interactivity between Spider-Man and the law. In Spider-Man 2, there were just people screaming, saying, hey, you gotta slow down that car, or hey, where'd you get your license from, a cereal box? Those would be angry drivers that you had to slow down yourself. Or there were people on the streets that you had to talk to, which say that there was a car that got kidnapped or someone just got carjacked and you had to save them, and there was a car behind them, which was a cop car, but it was only one cop car. If that was really going on, if someone got carjacked and someone saw it right next to them, there would be a cop car right there trying to save the day, and also the cop would be calling in lots of reinforcements, depending on how hostile the civilian is or how dangerous the situation would be. Now, granted, it was on the PS2, which is totally acceptable and fine because of how lackluster the graphics were back then for games like Spider-Man 2, even though that's a fantastic game. But we got an upgrade when we got the Ultimate Spider-Man game, which did it better, in my opinion, where you had the car chases happen, and then you had a giant mission marker that would appear for that car chase. However, it would only be rare occurrences when that would happen. As for looks, it was better. As for the abundancy, or the amount of times we would see it, that was bad. As for how it looked really cool, because of how it looked like a real comic book type of scenario. It looked really straight from the Ultimate Comics that Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley created together, and it was fantastic. And seeing the car, either from the civilian or the thugs, drive away while you had to swing into the action, it felt cool, but there were no cop cars that would try and help you stop that situation, as well as no dynamic background music to feel like this is actually a die-hard scenario, like this is actually a high-stakes scenario. If you do not catch this car, people are going to die. It did not feel like that at all, but it did look really cool. As for Spider-Man 3, there was that a lot too. There were tons of cop cars in that game, actually, that would go after the car chases that would just happen randomly. And by tons, I just mean a few, because of how that's how much the game could actually hold. There were at least 2 to 3 cars that were cop-like, that were either like police cruisers or police, big heavy police cars that would go after the car that you had to hunt down, and you had to go and stop the car with either taking out some part of the back engine or the front engine, or the rear tires or the front tires, leaving the car to be halted, then relieving the criminals from the car and you having to stop them on the street and fight them, which is cool, but it's always nice to have a really ongoing cool car chase that never stops. It's wanting to be a dynamic car chase. You don't want to stop the car and then all of a sudden just have the car be history. It's toast. We do not want that. We want the car chase to be really thrilling, exhilarating, fun, challenging, fast-paced, and awesome looking, and really high stakes level threatening for the civilians of New York City, because you do not want to feel like you are a hero that is letting these people down and that you are letting these people die on your watch, which is what a really high stakes car chase would allow, as well as police coverage from news choppers. You would think that if you saw Spider-Man, of all the heroes in the Marvel world, you see Spider-Man taking on a car chase in New York City streets with people shooting their guns and causing other cars to crash into buildings, you would think that that would get some news coverage. So I would want to see helicopters be on the dial, on the dime, getting news coverage for this game. And every time you see that happen for a car chase, it would be really dynamic, fast-paced, and fluid seeing that happen on screen. And that is what it was shown in the Spider-Man PS4 trailer, where you see the black SUVs with the inner demons in the car trying to make their getaway from the cops, and then they knock themselves into the cop cars, which then results in one of the cop cars exploding on the side of a building. It doesn't just crash, it explodes. So that shows right there that that is a really high-stakes match that we got for ourselves as a full-on Spider-Man challenge. Like, he is going to really try and push himself to the limit to stop those guys causing any more deaths, because those cops actually died. They died in that explosion, because they would not survive that explosion from the car if it crashed into a building and just blew up. They are dead or majorly injured and burned. That is really intense. So seeing that snippet of a car chase happen in a Spider-Man game is going to be insane. Especially seeing the moves that Spider-Man did to the thugs that are on the cars, or in the cars. Instead of hitting them all the way and then throwing out the car, he just side-kicked him, jumped over him with his webs, and then tossed him out with his webs to yank the villain out of the car, hang him from either a street sign or sticking him to the wall of a nearby building, which is really cool to see act out. It's not only using a really cool way for Spider-Man to take out the thugs, it's also using his environment and his skills and knowledge to also take out the criminals of New York City to keep the streets even safer. Which is why in the Amazing Spider-Man games, which are the last few free-roaming games other than Web of Shadows, because Web of Shadows had car predicaments. There were people who were getting abused by the symbiotes on top of the cars, which you had to save, or just thugs running rampant in the streets from the cars that they stole and were just causing havoc in the streets. There were no cops actually after them. There were cops that assisted in the game when you were trying to take down enemies or just even try and take out certain objects in the world, but mainly in a car chase, they were not really apparent. which is same thing in the Amazing Spider-Man games. It was not really a fluid side mission, it was just like a segment. Like, okay, there are some thugs that are being chased by some cops, and it's really thorough, and you gotta really go after them. Oh, but just, you gotta spam the web shoot button, and then the dodge button, and then do that over and over again, and then you win. Same thing with the Amazing Spider-Man 2. You saw one car and 2 cop cars, and you just had to go onto that car and just punch the guys until they're no more, and then just yank the civilian out of the car to save them. That is a fine segment, but if it was more dynamic like this new segment looks in the Spider-Man PS4 trailer, it would be very interesting to see that play out, as well as really, really important and fluid and vivid. It's going to feel like a living Spider-Man game. You're going to feel like you're on the top of a New York City building, and all of a sudden you hear police sirens going after some inner demon thugs or other gang member thugs in a car, and you feel like, wait a minute, if I don't stop these guys, they're going to actually hurt people. They're going to start killing cops. They're going to start hurting me. They're going to start hurting civilians. They're going to start crashing into buildings, destroying public property. Just from the snippets that we've seen from that trailer where Spider-Man is yanking the guy out of the car, as well as seeing the inner demons crash into the cop car into the building, because I do not think that is a set piece. I believe that is a side mission, which is going to be really awesome to see played out. Same thing with that sequence where he's on top of the truck. That could be a set piece or a main mission that you are doing, but if they're going to put that feature in the game, I would feel like there would be more than one segment where you are on top of a truck trying to fight guys that are really posing a threat to Spider-Man, as well as the individuals who are living in New York City. And that is all my ideas for the car chases / police pursuits that we could see in the game. Overall, they're going to be really dynamic and fun to see in this game, and going to be very, 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 very well detailed, other than any other Spider-Man game we have ever seen before. So thank you so much for the Spidey Bugle for giving me this idea. You are amazing, dude. Thank you so much, as well as all the other True Believers and Spidey Squad members. You guys are spectacular, and that goes for all of you guys. Stay spectacular, everybody. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed.